Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Crash. Today, we're going to be talking about fitting in. We're going to be talking about how it's okay to be a little bit different. It's okay to express yourself in different ways. So, I love this topic because it's one of the things that you can literally talk about anything about with it, because every single person is such a unique individual. Everyone's got their own skills. Everyone's got their own ambitions, their own dreams. Everything you can boil down to a person that creates them unique. You might have similar interests to someone else, but you only like a certain amount of combination of different things. So when you really put this into perspective, what is normal? How can society base what normal is, or what the society standard should be? Because if we all like different things, and there's not one person on here who likes every single person, every single object, every single activity, every single food, you name it. If there's not one person on here who is exactly the same in every single way, they react to things exactly the same way, how have we as a society come up with what is normal? And I was thinking about this a lot, like the other day, when people, they try to fit themselves into situations. They dull down their spark, they dull down their light, so that they're able to fit into different situations, different people, different circumstances. And when I was younger, I used to bother with people, and I never used to fit in. I was always like the sheep. So they like football, I like rugby. They was into their clothes, I wasn't materialistic, I didn't care. They like their cars, I still don't care about cars. And there was so many differences, and yet I still belonged. I still allowed myself to embrace myself, to be who I am. And it really got me thinking the other day that I think if I became a sheep and I started listening to other people and trying to fit in and change my opinions on things just to fit into other people's idea of what normal is, I don't think I would have been as confident as I am now. I don't think I would have had the courage to do a lot of the things that I do. I don't think I would have had the skills that I have now, where I don't actually care what people think of me. I don't care whether I'm right or wrong when I'm actually doing things, because I'm doing them because I enjoy them. I'm doing them because I want to do them. And I think this is a good skill to have that a lot of people have lost the art of doing, because a lot of people, they want to fit into society. They want to fit into the box. They want to be accepted by so many people, rather than being themselves. So if someone wanted to wear an outfit that was a bit out there, a lot of people, they wouldn't wear that outfit, and they would dull down their own spark just so they can fit into what other people class as normal. And when you really put this into perspective, I bet you can list something that you did to try and fit in, where you didn't want to be wrong, you didn't want to be singled out, you didn't want to be the one who's left out. And I reckon you could think back to many times where this happened. You know, whether it was everyone ordered a certain type of food and you don't actually like gherkins, but you just wanted to fit in, or, you know, you wore a certain clothes or a certain colour, or you bought a certain shoes, or you went and watched a film that you wasn't really interested in, just so that you could fit in. And it's one of these skills that society tries putting you in a box. It tries to tell you that there's one way to live your life. So majority of people, they go to school, they go to comp, they go to either college or sixth form, and then they go off to uni, get loads of debt, get a job, hopefully. So this is the standard that a lot of people try and push to you, a 9 to 5 job, if you will. And there's a lot less people who's actually going into trades. There's a lot less people who's experienced in their own company and that kind of stuff. But then there's also a lot of other people. There's the other people who's taking the risk, who's going more online, who's setting up their own company, they're going self-employed, they're working their own hours. I'm lucky. I'm in the position where I'm able to work my own job, my own hours. If I don't want to work one day, I've got no one to tell to, you know? Whereas a lot of people, if they want to go buggering off in their van on the weekend, or they want to book a random holiday, they have to ask someone else for permission. So many people are tied down. And it boils back down to that, trying to fit into society, trying to figure out how to please other people before they're pleasing themselves. They dull down their own spark, because how many of you have actually said, like, oh, I don't actually like the job I'm doing. I wish I was doing another job. I wish I was off doing something else. But it's a safe job. It's a very safe job. I'm very secure. I know my hours. I know how much I'm getting paid each month. You know, money is a risk, and I'm not saying that. And I also know that some people, they ain't capable of running their own business. They ain't capable of having a lot of free time on their hands. They prefer being told what to do. So we need them in society. You know, you need them in society to be able to move forward, to have social structure. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people beg for freedom. A lot of people beg for free time and all this stuff. But yet they're wasting away in a job that they don't even like just because it's safe. And they haven't got the courage to either speak out or book that trip because they're scared of the consequences that's going to happen. Because a lot of the time you can be quite lenient with places and stuff like that if you're just honest with them. You know, like if you say to them, I'm booking this, is it all right if I have it off? Most places, they'll be fine. But a lot of the time we're scared to do things for ourselves. We're scared to make the move for ourselves. So this brings me back to my original point where when you was younger, how many of you actually achieved the job that you wanted when you was younger? Because I know loads of people who said they wanted to be a police, they wanted to be in the army, the navy, they wanted to be whatever it was. And half of them haven't even ended up getting the job. Say, for instance, you work in Tesco's now and you absolutely hate every moment of it, but you feel like there's nothing else out there. So you never move away from Tesco's because you're just trying to fit yourself in. So you dull your spark. You say, oh, maybe in another life I could have done my dream job, being an archaeologist or an architect or whatever it is. But the beautiful thing of life, there's no time limit to it. So you could start now. You could start the process. You know, like the person who invented KFC or made the franchise KFC, he didn't do it until he was like 60 odd. Like when you really put that into perspective, where everyone is putting so much pressure on you when you're in your 20s, your 30s, and they're like, this is where life really starts. No, it don't. It really don't. Life starts when you realize you only have one life. So there's a famous saying, can't remember who says it, but it says in there, life truly starts when you believe you only have one life. You have two lives, and the second one starts when the first one... No, hang on. Woo. Life, you have two lives, and the second one starts when you realize you only have one. That's what the saying is. There we go. Took me a while, but I got there in the end. And that saying basically breaks it down that, yeah, we take it for granted. We take this life for granted, and we get trapped in a system. We get trapped in a routine that we're not actually happy with. And a lot of us don't actually have the courage to do things for ourselves. They don't have the courage to take the risk, to go off doing the things we want to do, but the holidays we want to book. Obviously, yes, again, it goes back to money. It goes to the fear of money. But money always returns, you know. And like, obviously, if you're in loads of debt, then, yeah, it's about getting your priorities straight. But what's the point working every single day and not living? What's the point working every single day and not reaping the rewards? And I know there's loads of people, they might say, oh, you're lucky, you've benefited. Hey, there was days where I was on my ass where I literally had like 30p in my back pocket. 30p, you know, and I used to be able to stretch that. But one thing I always did, I always still did things for me. Because you can still go places for cheap. The beaches, most beaches are free. You can go for a walk, that's free. You can go to your local park, that's free. You know, there's loads of things you can do which is free, or you already got lying around your house. But a lot of the time, we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. Because a lot of us have got this mindset that, oh, well, 5 minutes is not good enough. I wanted an hour. But surely 5 minutes would be better than nothing at all. And again, this is where society is pushing it down us, and social media don't help at all, because social media has had a big impact on a lot of things, because you're watching all these other people living a glamorous life. And you're like, oh, I wish that was me. I wish that was me. And rather than putting in the work, creating that life, because you've seen someone else do it. So that is living proof that it is possible. That is living proof that anyone is capable of doing it. So why do we sit on our phones and be like, oh, that's nice for them, or I bet they did this, or I bet they did that, to receive it? And when you really put it into perspective, there's lots of jealousy out there. There's lots of jealousy at people living lives that you want. And that's the only reason they're jealous. It's because other people have done things that you believe you was capable of doing, but you just didn't want to put the work in. You didn't want to make sacrifices. You didn't want to take the risk. And when you really reflect, it goes back to trying to put yourself back in that box, shrinking yourself, shrinking your light, holding your head down, rather than walking with confidence. Because as soon as you pin your shoulders back, as soon as you start looking forward, as soon as you start living with confidence, and there's a book I refer to loads of times, and if you ever get the chance to read it, you need to read it. And it's The 12 Rules of Life by Jordan B. Peterson, sorry. And his book, 12 Rules of Life, each rule, it breaks it down. One of the first rules he says is, talks about lobsters and about how lobsters have different postures. And a lobster can tell how many fights the lobster's won, how big it is, how much it weighs, all by its posture and the scent that it releases, because it releases a more powerful scent. And then obviously the lobsters who are more cowardly, they have a smaller posture, they're more frail. So it just goes to show, when you start carrying yourself head up straight, more confident, shoulders relaxed, looking where you're going, you will find yourself being more confident. Take the risk. So then another rule in there is about how when one of our dogs or pets gets sick, we rush them to the hospital. We take them to the hospital straight away because we're panicking for them. Whereas if you flip the roles and when we get sick, when we get burnt out, when we get stressed, we don't look after ourselves. We don't take a day off. So why is it that we're able to look after other people better than ourselves? Why is it that we look after family members better than ourselves? You're very quick to moan to a family member when they're not going to the doctors. So why does it take us so long to take them to the doctors, to take them to the vets? You know? Why is it? Why is that? It's because, again, we've shrunk ourselves in a society to try and fit in. We've put other people on pedestals more than ourselves, rather than taking ourselves with priority. And this is where it all boils down to, is we are told from a young age that you're not to be over the top. Society has tried to tell us what normal is, what you should be looking for to fit in, to be normal. And this is where the big problems come in. It's because you lose who you are. You lose the adventure in you, the curiosity, the courage. If you wasn't exposed to it from a young age, whereas I was very lucky, I got exposed to it. I was out on the tools at 8 years old with my dad on the gas meters, and I'd be walking into like buildings on my own, basically saying like, yeah, I'm here to fit the gas meter. And my dad improved my confidence, because I had no choice. I had to go in and speak it while he was parking the van. So I had to speak to a load of people. This is why I'm very confident. This is probably where I've learned that it doesn't matter what people think of you, as long as you believe in yourself, because I had to believe I was capable to do the job at hand. I had to believe that I had the skills there. I had to believe that I was going to portray myself in a way that people wasn't just going to dismiss me. And I used to struggle with it massively. I still struggle with it time for time, you know. And when I used to play rugby, people used to say to me all the time, like, oh, I'm glad you're on my team. You're amazing. You're this, you're that. I never used to believe them. I used to try and blend in. I wasn't the glory hunter in rugby. I was the one who set it up. I was doing all the dirty work that no one else wanted to do. So they definitely do have their role. But looking back now, I realised I was a good player. I realised that I had very good potential. My only issue was, because I didn't believe in myself, and my belief was, this is all I'm ever going to do. All I'm ever going to do is just get injured. I'm just a replacement man, utility player. This is why I used to get injured all the time. It's because it's what I believed. If you believe that you're a nobody and that you don't deserve nice things, you don't deserve the lifestyles you're seeing on Instagram and everything, sad reality is that's what you're going to get. Sad reality is that's the truth, because your beliefs create your reality. So this is one of the reasons I have the word believe actually on my stomach, is because believing in yourself is one of the most powerful things you can do in life. Believing in yourself is one of the most powerful things. When you start embracing who you truly are, and you believe no matter what you do, where you go, you are you, and you don't have to try and impress anyone, or you're not trying to be anyone you're not. You can achieve such amazing things, but it all starts with you believing in yourself. It all starts with you taking that first step out of your comfort zone. When was the last time you did something that made you a little bit uncomfortable? A lot of people suffer with anxiety, right? And I was talking to a few people on the podcast recently. They suffer with social anxiety, but yet they'll be happy to go to the shop on their own. Some people, obviously, their social anxiety, it don't allow them to go to the shop, but they're able to interact with family members. They're able to post a video online or post a picture online. And yes, I know that there's different levels of social anxiety and this kind of stuff, but when you really break it down, all anxiety is your own mind. No one else is putting it there, right? Because you're choosing to allow other people to affect you, other circumstances to affect you. You're allowing the spiral to affect you. And yes, it's easy for me to say, because I figured out the way to help with my anxiety. I figured out the way to be able to just go out and do whatever I want. I was walking down town dressed as Shrek, because I've mastered the art, and that's what it is. It is an art of just not caring what people think. And obviously you've got the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. You've got that book. That's a good book. It really explains a lot. And people with anxiety, I really do feel sorry for them, because they let their mind control their life rather than controlling their mind. Yeah, so they let their mind control their life rather than them controlling their mind so that they can have it control their life. So they let other things control them. So with anxiety, you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you need to build a good relationship with the things that frighten you. So for instance, if you're scared of going down to the shop, the first step would be getting ready, walking out the front door, standing out your front door. That's a good first start. You've made the first effort. Go back in the house. The next day, go out, go a little bit further. And you keep doing this, and you build on it, and you build it, and you build it. Because what you need to do, you need to train your brain that it's not that bad. Because you might have had a bad experience, or 9 times out of the 10, right? And hear me out, you are worrying about things or scenarios that haven't even happened. Your mind has gone that creative. You're relying on things that haven't even happened. So when you start having that courage to do the things that you wouldn't normally do, wear the things that you wouldn't normally wear, you start to shape your reality. You start to change how you approach situations, and you're going to be able to identify when your voice is spiraling and talking nonsense to when it is actually your thoughts and it is actually a real situation. Because all anxiety is, it's just activating the pineal gland, and it's your fight or flight simulant. And it's basically a fear. It's a fear mechanism. And that's all anxiety really is. So what you need to do is tackle it head on. It's the same as anything you want to achieve in life. You have to actually actively want to make a difference to it. Because the longer that you sit and let it manifest and build up inside you, the longer that you're going to be trapped, suffering with anxiety, suffering with all these different things. Because the mind is so powerful when you learn to control it. And everyone can control their mind. And I don't care what anyone says, it might be a very controversial thing. Anyone can change their life in a matter of moments if they really, really wanted the change. Okay? If they believed in the change. And I don't care what anyone says. No one can change my mind on this, right? Because I was at my lowest, My mind used to be constant with negative thoughts. My mind used to be constant with horrible, horrible, horrible thoughts about just leaving the world behind. I used to drink excessively to try and help with these thoughts, to silence the thoughts. I used to gamble to feel that little bit of excitement. And if I can change my life around where I was absolutely awful, there wasn't even a positive thought in the day, okay? Every time I was smiling, it was a fake smile. And even though your brain don't know what a smile is and what not a smile is, you know, a real smile to a fake smile, I was miserable. And it's because I was letting my brain believe these negative thoughts. I was letting my brain create these negative thoughts. As soon as I realized that it takes just as much energy to give a good thought as a bad thought, I was able to turn my life around. But it was because I was willing to make a change. I cut out the drink because the drink wasn't helping. The drink was just creating a barrier, a blanket. And this is what happens a lot of the time with people who suffer with like anxiety, depression, and that kind of stuff. And yes, I know there's different levels of it. But a lot of the time, they have found a comfort mechanism or a comfort zone where they don't actually have to deal with the issues. So whether it's just burying all your problems down in the back of your head, or whether it's saying, oh yeah, I'm fine, without actually having to speak up about it, or my case, having another drink. But let me tell you, any single person can change their mind if they put the work in. Some people, they might do it in a day. Some people, it might take 3 months. Some people, it might take 3 years. But let me tell you, if you put the work in, and the harder you work at it, the more you want the change, the faster the results. And I can promise you that. I can promise you that with the hand on my heart. If you really put in the work that you want to go out your comfort zone, you can do it. The best way that I would approach it and start with it is you got to learn that your past don't define you. This is the hardest place because this is where a lot of people, they stress. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to start. And how can you deal with a problem if you don't even know what's causing the problem? And this is where I always tell people to start. That shitty things happen to people all the time. And it's up to you if you hold on to them. It's up to you if you just keep storing them in your head rather than dealing with them. You've got to really dig deep and you've got to figure out, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? You've got to start to analyze your emotion and your triggers. Because once you know what is causing it, that is how you can solve a solution. Because if you had a leak, for instance, say for instance your house is leaking, how are you meant to fix that leak if you don't know where it's coming from? You could patch up where it's leaking from on the water, and then a couple of weeks later, oh, why is it leaking again? It's because you've only done a temporary patch. You've got to go to the root cause to stop the leak. Obviously, you can switch it off at the mains, but when you're switching off the mains, nothing is flowing. This is why people start to get more anxious, more depression. They find to start other ways to try and solve it because they're not going direct to the source. They're going around it. They're going the long-winded way. So I had to sit down and I went through all of my trauma. I went through every single attempt that I had and how I was feeling at that time from memory. And your memory is your best friend, but it's also not so good as well, because sometimes your memory can over-exaggerate on things. Sometimes what actually happened, it's not as bad to you as it actually was in the situation. It's just because you've replayed it so many times over in your head, you don't actually know what is happening. You don't actually know what is happening because you've replayed it so many times over your head, and every time you replay it, you're remembering it from a memory, not from the actual time it happened. And this is a point that a lot of people miss, is sometimes our own head over-exaggerates. Sometimes our own head misses in key information out. So you need to go to the root cause, and it's not going to be pretty. I can tell you that now. It's not easy. But I went back all the way from when I first remember being bullied. I went back to all the way where I used to call myself all these stupid things, where I used to headbutt walls, and I went back to my first ever attempt, at the age of 12 years old, and I can remember it vividly, but I've healed from it now. And this is the important thing, is that you've got to accept that these bad things are going to happen to people. You've got to accept that bad things are going to happen to you in the future, because life is all about balance, where there's good, there's bad, there's bad, there's good. And I'm grateful for all these shitty things happening to me in my life. I'm grateful for all the struggles, because if these struggles didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have had the courage to be who I want to be. I wouldn't have the courage to move forward with life. I wouldn't have had the courage to go back and heal from all the trauma. I wouldn't have the courage to help all of you lovely people. And this is where it's important. This is what you important. When you're going back, you need to go through it with care. Okay? When you go back through all these emotions, it's going to be painful. And I don't recommend doing them all in one go. It literally took me about 7 months. And I used to sit for about 20 minutes on my own, meditating, reliving it, journaling. Therapy is a good way if you feel like it's better talking to someone. Therapy didn't work for me because in my own head, I didn't actually think people cared, and this was the state I was in. So when I did all my healing, I did it all on my own. I did it from reading the self-help books and applying the self-help books to myself. And like I said, it was hard. I can remember going to bed most nights crying my eyes out, not telling anyone else, because I had to be this very brave person. I had to be this very strong person for everyone, putting a smile on face. And I remember the times where I would have had an attempt where, I tied the skipping rope and then it would fail and I'd have to come home like nothing had happened, and people would be asking me like, how's your day, and I'd have to act like I was absolutely fine. And this is why I've had to work so hard for it. I've had to work so hard and I'm healing every single day. But you've got to want it for yourself. You've got to want the change. And when I hit the rock bottom of my last attempt in November 2021, I drank on New Year's Eve and I prayed. I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. I said, whatever's out there, I can't keep living this life. If I'm going to keep failing attempts, I'm just a failure. I need to change something. And what I changed was the biggest thing, the biggest influence. It was like something just made sense inside me. It's the drink. The drink wasn't helping. I used to drink when I used to feel sad to make myself feel better. And then after the drink, I used to feel worse. So then I would drink more. And then I would see everyone else getting off their face. And I'd be like, I want to be like that, where they don't seem like they got anything going on in their head. So then I was drinking more. And obviously, the more you drink, the more your tolerance goes up. So it was getting to the point where I was drinking like 30, 40 pints and not feeling a thing, 3 bottles of spirits on a weekend and drinking before for bed. And it wasn't until I really sat down and went through all the trauma. I went through all the bullying. Why did I used to react how I used to react? I relived it all. But rather than focusing on all the negatives that happened to me and being like, boo-hoo, this happened to me, playing the victim, I flipped the switch. I looked at all the positives. So an example, I lost my temper at this situation. I lost my temper. Why did I lose my temper? No, because it made me feel this way. Okay. So what can I take from it? All right, okay. So you got to learn, why did it make you feel that way? So I literally broke it down into sections. And every time I come to a conclusion, I would ask myself, why? Why am I expressing this emotion when this happens? Why did I let it manifest more? Why did this situation have this reaction, but a similar situation didn't? And when you can pick apart and be a self-critic, but pick apart the positives, okay, it could have been worse, I'll give you an example. Someone was talking about my mum, saying that he slept with my mum. I lashed out, picked them up, chucked them over a bridge, bending their fingers back and everything. And I just saw red. But why did I react like that? It's because I got a bloody good mum. my mom's my best friend because I care. Right, okay, so I care. Would there have been another way I could have dealt with it? Yeah, probably. Okay, that's fine. What kind of breath work could I have done? Okay, right. Do you see where the thought process is? So now I'm a very calm person because I realize that you're in control of your anger. So whenever I get angry, I bring myself back, I ground myself, and then I use that anger in another way. Because just remember, you've got to have a release for all the emotions that you've got. You've got to have a release. Because if we keep building it, where's it going to go? It's going to go in other parts of your body. It's going to come across in other ways. So once you find that release, whether it's art or gym or running or whatever it is, walking, you will be able to heal more. But you got to be wanting to do the work. You got to be wanting to go into the shadows. And let me tell you, you're going to hate it, right? I can't sugarcoat it. You are going to hate every second of it. And this is where it makes or breaks. If you want to continue having a victim mentality where you're like, well, nothing good ever happens to me, I'm sorry to tell you, that's going to be your life. That's going to be the rest of your life. I can name so many people who play the victim and people feel sorry for them. People really feel sorry for them. There's someone I used to be very close with, and yeah, they continue to play the victim. And the amount of times that I would tell them that, come on, you can do this, and they just wouldn't listen because people around them would believe into it, and then that would create this more sense of reality for them. Okay, so you've got to learn to get out of the victim mentality, and you've got to hold yourself accountable. As soon as you learn to hold yourself accountable, you're willing to put the work in, and you're willing to make sacrifices and changes, and that it's not going to be easy, but you're willing to give it a go and never give up, no matter how hard it gets. Because I could have easily turned back to the drink, right? The first 4 months, saying that, I know the first year was absolutely awful. I nearly had over 200 relapses. Over 200 relapses in the first year I was giving up alcohol. Whether that was at a social situation or whether it was the fact that I had a stressful day. And I fought through. This year, I think I had about 7 close calls. 7. That's a huge difference. So I'm not saying that you're ever going to heal fully, because you heal every single day. But what I am saying is that you won't let the past define you. You'll create your own future, and you will overcome and be in control of your own mind. But what it takes is you believing in yourself that you are capable of it. It takes courage to make that first step, whether that's asking for help or whether it's doing your own research and actually applying what you've learned. But you've got to be wanting to do it. People can give you the tools all they want. People can literally sit here and be like, if you do this exact thing, you'll be fine. You're going to overcome it. But if you turn around and do it slightly different, or you're like, oh, I'm going to do this bit, but I'm not that bothered about this bit, I'm sorry, but you're not going to improve. You can't pick and choose. Yes, different methods work for different people. I'm not saying that. But the whole process comes as one. Because when you're making a cake, for instance, you can't just pick and choose what ingredients go in the cake. Obviously, you need the main ingredients. And the main ingredients are accountability, willingness, and change. Your mental health will not improve unless you have those ingredients. You can add other things in, and that's how you make your fancy cake. But without those ingredients, willingness, change, and accountability, you will never change. Okay? And that's the hard truth. That is the hard truth. And I hate to sit here and be like it, but I know for a fact every single one of you can change. Every single of you will change. But you got to do it on your terms. And what is it worth sacrificing? If you're an alcoholic like me, if you're not able to go in a social event for the first couple months, that's absolutely fine. You got to make sacrifices. If you lose a load of people along your journey, or you're surrounding yourself in a toxic environment, you've got to be willing to lose them. You've got to be willing to lose everything and start again. You've got to let go of all the past. You've got to let go of everything, all the chains, all the baggage. You've got to walk yourself up to the top of the mountain, because you are the mountain. You are the obstacle. How far are you willing to go? Because it's not about the top. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about the learning. It's about choosing which path you take. Now you're going to choose the easy path. The path where you're stuck in this life. Stuck in the life that society wants you, where you're low vibration, you're low energy, you've got depression, anxiety, you struggle to hold conversations, you struggle to be you. Well, you're going to take that difficult path. Start putting the work into yourself, into your mind, your body, your spirit. Start being your authentic self, doing things for you, being more responsible for you, holding yourself more accountable for you. If you're in massive amounts of debt, for instance, what's the first thing you can change today to solve that? What is something that you can do and get the discipline for? You got to figure it out. People can give you the tools. People can tell you what to do. But unless you want to put the work in, nothing is going to change. What you are not changing, you are choosing. And this was a quote that helped me so much. This is a so powerful quote. One of my favorite quotes. The past is in your head. The future's in your hands. You know, another one. A-OK. You're going to be A-OK. What's the worst that could happen if you're giving it a go? What's the worst that could happen? If it don't work for you, hey, go back to the life. Go back to the life with the comfortable blanket. But don't go moaning that your life isn't where it wants to be if you give up. Because you got to put the work in. You got to find what works so that you're able to pull yourself out of it. Just know that you are capable of amazing things once you put your mind to it. Once you get a little bit of courage in yourself. Once you start to believe in yourself. Just know you can do it. And it's all about making that first move. So I just want to ask you, before we go, what is one thing you could change right now that would help you in the direction? Is it reaching out to someone? Is it cutting off a load of friends? Is it getting a business plan or a money plan together to help you pay off your finances, your debts? Is it cutting down on how much you're drinking, changing your type of food? All it boils down to is, who do you want to be? Are you happy living the life you are now? What happened to all them dreams that you had when you were younger? Are they gone? What really fuels your soul? What fuels your soul? And once you find that fuel, you got to let it light you up. Because light is created from inside ourselves. It's not something you find out there. Light is inside you. Every single one of you listening here now, you've all got that light inside of you. And once you get that little glimmer of hope, you need to hold on to it and let it guide you through the darkness. Because darkness don't survive when there's light. People ask me all the time, how do you remain so positive all the time? It's because, the truth be told, I'm never going back to the darkness. I didn't like it there. I didn't like who I was there. This is why I'm a beaming light. I'm a beacon. I'm going to show you that it is capable. You know? Yes, I slack off. Hey, you know, I've let myself go. I've put on a few pounds, you know, whatever. But I'm still happy in myself. I'm still mentally okay. You know? And yes, I will never let myself get to the state I was before. I've put on a bit of weight. I'm 97. But before, I was 129 kg. You know, 20 stone. I'll never get to that stage again. And I notice the signs. And this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. It's about being rich in life, not in material things. So just reflect on that. Just reflect on that. It's one hell of a journey. You'll be grateful for it. And just remember, right, your story might save someone's life. Okay? Once you put the work in. I feel like my story helps a lot of people. I feel like my story inspires a lot of people. And I know I get told on the daily that my I've changed a lot of people's mindsets and I've given people hope. But the only problem is a lot of people have become reliant on me. And that's not what it is about with healing. Because I realized I was putting a lot of mental strain on myself. It was putting a lot of, I needed to do more because I wanted to be the one to fix them. Truth is, and it's a hard lesson to learn, sometimes you can help people. But unless they're willing or they get the idea themselves, nothing's going to change. And it breaks me. It really do break me that I'm not able to help everyone. But one thing I know, I can definitely inspire majority of people to make that first change. And then it's like an avalanche. It's like a domino effect. But it all starts with you wanting that first change, making the first change, and doing it for you, not for anyone else, not to fit into society. It's for you to find who you are. And once you become your authentic self, this is when changes start to happen. So I hope you can reflect on this episode, replay it if you need to. We've kind of covered quite a lot of things, but just know I'm proud of you. I know that you're going to make a difference. I know that you're going to make changes. And all I know is you got to believe in yourself. I believe in you. So now it's time to believe in yourself. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoyed, make sure to follow the podcast. Make sure to comment down below. And also make sure that you just smile for yourself. You just show up for yourself. And that you are you. So thank you all for listening, and I will see you very soon. I'm proud of you. Goodbye.